The verdict shook again, harder this time. Structural integrity dropped to 21% as the hull screamed beneath a direct hit. Sparks rained from the overhead panels, and the emergency lighting stuttered before stabilizing in a dim red haze that bathed the bridge like dried blood. Commander Layna Reeves wiped soot from her brow with a sleeve already stained with someone else's. Her knuckles were white around the command rail as her voice cracked through the fractured comms. Status. Forward batteries are gone, someone shouted from below deck. Portside thruster is offline. Reactor 3's venting. And the iron mark just broke apart over the Atlantic corridor. She didn't curse. She didn't flinch. She simply closed her eyes for one breath, then two. Then barked, redirect interceptors 2 and 3 to hold the western flank. I want the Peregrine on point. Sacrifice the railgun if you have to. Just keep them off the colony line. The Scourge moved without sound, without expression, without hesitation. They weren't ships so much as obsidian beasts, sleek and spined, with jagged limbs that crackled with blacklight energy. Their weapons bent physics. Their gravity ripples tore through Earth's defenses like cloth. Nothing about them made sense. Nothing about them obeyed the laws of war or mercy. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase. On the view screen, another Earth cruiser detonated, its shielding buckling before the hull peeled apart. Like a crushed soda can. The explosion didn't bloom, it folded. Space bent around it like reality hiccuped, and then the light was gone. So was the crew. Layna gritted her teeth. The silence after each loss was worse than the impact. No screams. No farewells. Just ... gone. She looked down at the strategic map. What was left of Earth's fleet was a mess, broken formations, dying ships, floating wrecks clinging to orbital shells that were never designed for prolonged battle. The verdict was the largest ship remaining, and it was barely holding together. With backup batteries and patches held together by hope. A ping. She blinked. Reed? What was that? She asked, staring at the screen. The ensign at sensors looked pale. His fingers hovered, trembling, over a cracked panel. Ma'am, I think we just picked up a quantum phase distortion. Origin Saturn's far shadow. Scourge? He shook. His head, no signature match. And, ma'am, the reading's old. Like pre-drift era. Ancient. Another ping. This time the lights on the bridge dimmed for a second, flickered, and snapped back. Screens glitched. Some systems reset. Others rebooted entirely. The verdict's AI stuttered and then fell silent. Only static remained across all channels. Confirm. Source, Layna demanded, voice hard. I don't know. The signal's not targeting us. It's just coming. The forward display, still fractured with pixelated artifacting, suddenly darkened. Something moved. It didn't jump in with. A flare. It didn't roar with power. It emerged like something long buried, simply opened its eyes. From behind Saturn's shadow, a massive vessel decloaked. No fanfare. No announcement. Just presence. It was enormous. Larger than anything Layna had seen in over 2 decades of command. Not Earth-made. Not Scourge. Its hull shimmered black, streaked with dark violet ridges and non-Euclidean shapes that seemed to shift when not directly looked at. Bristling with strange, fluid architecture. Alive, silent, watching. The entire bridge fell quiet. No IFF tags. No comms. No visual confirmation. It didn't broadcast. It simply moved forward, toward the battlefield. Layna stared at the screen, voice low. Is it ours? The moment the unknown ship entered the battlefield, everything changed. The Scourge paused. Not for long, maybe a second or two, but for a species that measured war in microseconds. That hesitation was thunderous. Their formation faltered. Weapons. that had been locked on Earth's crumbling fleet shifted slightly, recalculating trajectory, reanalyzing threat priority. One of the frontline cruisers, an angular monstrosity lined with gravity hooks and ablative armor, even retreated 3 degrees a blink of motion, but Layna saw it. And so did the Verdict's bridge crew. Commander ... Ensign Reed whispered, "They're reacting to it." The foreign vessel, if it could be called that, didn't respond to anyone's hails. Layna had tried all channels, all encryption tiers, all languages Earth had cataloged from known. Space, no response. It glided forward with unsettling grace, passing between Saturn and Mars like a ghost through mist, neither accelerating nor decelerating. Its presence seemed to ripple space itself. Readings fluctuated just by proximity. Sensors shorted out and rebooted. One of the Verdict's backup reactors tripped offline for 3 seconds. Just from being in visual range, the Scourge began to test it. A forward scout ship nimble, insectoid, marked with red glyphs along its hull peeled off from the main pack, and launched a trio of blacklight torpedoes toward the vessel. No warnings. No ceremony. Layna gripped the railing, pulse hammering. Don't. But it was already too late. The torpedoes reached the ship and disappeared. There was no impact, no detonation, no light show. The blacklight munitions, each of which had vaporized Earth cities during first contact, simply ceased to exist as they crossed a certain invisible boundary around the unknown ship's hull. Not disintegrated. Not intercepted. Erased. On the verdict screen, silence followed. The ship moved again. This time, it surged. In less than a heartbeat. It closed the distance between itself and the attacking scout. There was no visible propulsion. No fire from thrusters. It jumped without jumping. Then came the first strike. A lance of translucent energy shot forth from the unknown ship's forward array, silent, colorless, nearly invisible except for the way it bent the stars behind it. It touched the Scourge scout and the scout collapsed, not exploded, not torn apart. It crumpled, as if the concept of its structure had been revoked. The hull turned inward. The lights died. Its weapon ports sealed shut as if shamed. And then the ship folded like a dying insect, falling into itself and vanishing in a quiet burst of implosion. The Scourge fleet recoiled. Panicked. Yes. Layna saw it. In all her years of combat, she had never seen the Scourge panic. Retreat? Yes. Reposition? Of course, but this was primal. Their line fractured. They started splitting formations, retreating from whatever that ship was. Fear, rendered in perfect formation. Mathematical terror. Layna stepped forward, eyes locked on the screen. Is this some black project? Something from Section 9? Does Earth own this? Reed shook his head, still pale. I've checked every classified registry. Nothing like it. It's not in our databanks. Commander, the material structure isn't even fully real. Parts of it don't exist in the same dimensional layer. What does that even mean? I think it's not from here. Layna's jaw tightened. You mean not from Earth? Reed whispered, I mean not from this universe. The Verdict's comms panel lit up, but not with distress calls. Not Earth command. Not Scourge frequencies. Private channel. Encrypted with a code that hadn't been used in 5 years. Layna froze. She knew that code. She had written it herself. 5 years ago, during the Europa Drift mission, the one that vanished. The one that took her brother. Ryan. Her hand moved on its own. She accepted the signal. The screen flickered static, pulsing with fragmented shapes and half-rendered glyphs. Then a voice, distorted, warped, but unmistakable. You weren't supposed to see this, Layna. She staggered back half a step. No. Impossible. Ryan? The screen buzzed again. The signal cleared just enough to show the silhouette of a figure tall, humanoid but altered, shadowed, his face hidden in shifting armor. Glowing veins pulsed under synthetic skin. "I told you I'd come back." The voice said, softer now. "Just not like this." Layna's world tilted. Her brother lost, presumed dead, entombed in silence, was speaking through the thing that had just turned the tide of battle. She whispered, "What? What are you?" The reply came through the static. "I'm what we had to become to survive." The command deck of the Verdict fell so quiet, Layna could hear her own pulse thudding in her ears. Ryan's voice still echoed in her mind, not from a comm channel, not through a relay. It felt deeper than that, like it had bypassed the speakers entirely and whispered straight into the back of her skull. She stared at the screen, the silhouette still hovering in the static. His form shifted, not glitching, but refracting, like he occupied multiple spaces at once. Parts of him were man, but others were veined with bioluminescent filaments that pulsed in perfect sync with the alien ship's core. His eyes, once green, like hers, now glowed a soft violet. Familiar and completely wrong. "Ryan, is that really you?" The figure tilted its head. "As much as I can still be, I'm integrated." A shiver ran down her spine. "With what?" The image flickered. His voice darkened. "The ship, the artifact, the thing they were trying to bury under Europa. It was never a weapon, it was an interface, and I touched it. It touched back." The bridge crew was frozen, listening. Not one dared interrupt. Even Reed, who normally trembled through stress reports, sat transfixed, his hands idle above dead panels. Layna forced her voice to stay steady. "Why didn't you contact us? We thought you were dead." "I was. The man I was died in that crater. The only reason I'm here now is because something else chose not to let me stay dead." Static flared again. The screen flinched. Outside. The alien ship, the one he now claimed to be, hovered between Earth's battered fleet and the fractured Scourge line. It made no aggressive moves, yet its presence disrupted every sensor across the sector. Even the Scourge kept distance now, regrouping but unwilling to re-engage. "You don't understand what we found," Ryan said. "Europa wasn't an accident. It wasn't a scientific mission. The brass knew something was there. They sent us in to seal it, not study it." "What was it? A door? A relay?" "A shard of something older than this galaxy. Not dead, just sleeping, waiting for a mind it could map to. I got too close, and it made me the key." Layna's knees nearly gave out. "They lied to us." Ryan's voice softened. "They always did." She clenched her jaw, furious and heartbroken all at once. The fleet had buried him, buried the mission, buried the truth. But now, that truth was flying under alien geometry, saving Earth from annihilation and speaking in the voice of her brother. "I came back," he said, "because I heard the signal. The Scourge aren't just invaders. They're harvesters, cleaners. When something like me appears, they respond. They're not here for Earth, they're here for me." A new alert pinned. Reed looked at her, then the console. Multiple Scourge ships breaking formation again. "Commander, they're targeting him." Ryan's ship began to move, effortless, silent. He rotated in place, facing the bulk of the Scourge fleet. "I can hold them off, but you need to move. Get your people out of range. If they realize I'm part of Earth's command structure, they'll wipe the planet clean just to keep the code from spreading." "You're not part of command," Layna said bitterly. "They erased you." "I know." His voice didn't flinch. "But I remember what it means to protect something worth dying for." Then he cut the channel. No permission, no explanation. Alien vessel shot forward like a shadow cut loose, closing the distance with an aggression that defied physics. It shimmered in and out of visible light, phasing between dimensions. When the Scourge fired, their weapons missed not because of bad aim, but because the space the ship had just occupied no longer existed. Ryan, whatever he had become, struck the first dreadnought dead center with a stream of spatial destabilizers. The entire ship folded into itself, its own mass imploding, erasing. Hundreds of attackers in seconds. Another fired at him with pulse graviton arcs. Ryan's ship split into three mirrored versions of itself, dodged, reconverged, and retaliated with a burst of quantum flame. On the Verdict's bridge, the crew watched in silence as one ship, a ghost, a myth, a man who should have been dead, tore into the unstoppable fleet that had reduced Earth's defenses to scrap. Layna leaned forward, whispering to herself, "You're not fighting to win, you're fighting to hold them off." The realization hit her like a lightning strike. This wasn't a counterattack. This wasn't revenge. It was a delay. She slammed the command console. "Get me Earth Defense Command. All ships retreat vectors now. I want everything behind Lunar Shadow Grid 4. Use the debris clouds as cover." "Commander, what about the reinforcements?" "There aren't any," she snapped. "Ryan's buying us seconds. I intend to make every one count." Her fingers hovered above the encrypted channel. Then she opened it again. "Ryan, if you're still in there, don't die on me again." No response. Outside, he fought alone. A ghost, a virus, a brother, and something no longer fully human. The void burned with silent war. Ryan's ship, if it could still be called that, moved like a rumor through the chaos. Not with engines, but with intent. It didn't glide. It hunted. Every time the Scourge tried to pin it down, to triangulate a pattern, it slipped, twisting through folds in space that should not exist. It wasn't invisibility. It was displacement. It was absence by choice. The Verdict had pulled back behind Lunar Shadow Grid 4, dragging what remained of Earth's defensive fleet with it. 4 ships capable of firing, 2 more too damaged to do anything but drift, and the wreckage of 20 others blocking line of sight. The whole retreat was held together by sheer desperation and the gravity of what he had become. From the bridge, Layna watched the impossible unfold across the tactical map. 3 Scourge dreadnoughts disabled, Ensign Reed said in disbelief. 2 more imploded. No detonations. They just collapsed like they forgot how to exist, Layna muttered. Reed turned toward her. How was he doing this? She didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. The answer wasn't in the schematics or the science, or even the broken Europa files still buried under black archive clearance. The answer was in the voice that had spoken to her. The voice that used to be her brother. "Keep visual," she said quietly. "No matter what happens, we watch." Outside, the alien vessel flared. Not a weapon. Not even a defense maneuver. It was a signal. Across the field, the Scourge fleet reoriented. All at once, Ryan's ship had stopped moving. Layna's hands clenched around the rail. "What are you doing, Ryan?" No response came. No new comms. Just the image of the alien vessel now hovering still at the heart of the battlefield like a monument carved from nightmare. The Scourge surrounded him 5 dreadnoughts. Dozens of skirmishers, fractal-bodied interceptors that moved like starlight reflected through broken glass. They didn't attack. Not yet. They watched him. On the Verdict's bridge, sensors screamed. "Ma'am, I'm picking up something." Deep scan anomaly. Beneath us. Beneath? In the planetary crust. Not Earth's crust. Mars. Layna's stomach turned. "Get me a feed." The screen lit up. Mars, as seen from the outer orbital ring, was calm. Empty. Then it pulsed. Not From explosion or quake? From resonance, a vibration deep beneath the surface. Reed's voice trembled. It's responding. To what? He didn't need to answer. They all knew. The artifact dot, it wasn't just in Ryan dot, there were more. The screen. Divided split feeds across the solar system, activating one by one. Old listening posts, derelict outposts, forgotten research satellites, all began pinging the same signature. Layna whispered. They're networked. The Scourge fleet began moving again, but not to attack. They formed a sphere, a prison. Not for Ryan, but for the energy his presence was waking up. She understood now. The Scourge were not here to kill him. They were here to contain him. The artifact inside Ryan wasn't just a weapon or an interface, it was a relay. His existence as host had activated latent systems buried across the system beneath crusts. Inside moons, dormant on dead ships dot, and the Scourge knew. One of the enemy dreadnoughts began charging what looked like a core, burst larger than anything. Recorded in Earth's warfare databases. Plasma spiraled along its ridged hull like a dying star winding up for collapse. Ryan's ship pulsed once, and all the feed monitors across the bridge cut to black. For 3 long seconds, the verdicts. Crew sat in total silence. Then came the voice. Layna. It came from every speaker, every screen, every still active neural interface. His voice was quieter now, measured, slower, as if strained. I'm losing hold. It's spreading faster than I can contain. The Scourge aren't the enemy. They're the immune system, and I'm the infection. Layna stepped forward. Then let us help. Give us something, anything. A low, bone-rattling hum shook the verdict's walls. It wasn't sound. It was frequency. The resonance of something trying to overwrite space itself. Don't you get it? Ryan said. This thing. It doesn't want control. It wants convergence. With me. With every thinking system it touches. That's why the Scourge are here. They're not destroying Earth to conquer it. They're trying to make sure I never reach it. The voice broke. Can't stop it alone. Layna's breath caught. Then don't. Outside. His ship surged again, energy leaking from every seam. Then something impossible happened. The Scourge opened a channel. Not words, not language. A burst of imagery. A psychic projection, raw and incomprehensible, but one thing was clear. Warning. The Scourge had seen this before. They had fought this battle on other worlds. And lost. Only one tactic remained: contain the host, kill the signal, collapse the source, and they had failed. Again. Now Earth was next, but Layna wasn't. Ready to give him up. She turned to her crew. Get me a direct uplink to his ship. Reed blanked. Commander, if we link, whatever's in him could spread. To us. She nodded. That's the risk, but if we don't, we've already lost. She pressed her palm to the control pad. Ryan. I'm with you. Guide me in. A pause. Then his voice choked with something between pain and awe, whispered back. You really are still my sister. And the verdict systems flared violet. The verdict burned violet. Not fire, not heat, but data. A living frequency. Every screen, every circuit, every neural line in the ship began to thrum with alien pulse. The hull groaned, not from stress but from something far stranger, resonance. As if the ship itself was becoming part of a growing signal. Layna stood in the center of the command deck, her hand still pressed to the interface, jaw tight, eyes locked on the stream of code bleeding across the main screen. It wasn't Earth. Language, not even Scourge glyphs. It was something older, fluid symbols unfolding, not written but grown. Commander, Reed whispered, his voice barely audible. Our systems are being overwritten, but not attacked. I know, she said. He's showing us. Across. The feed, Ryan's voice echoed not as sound now, but through the ship itself. A presence more than a man. He spoke in emotions and layered meaning. It's a broadcast, Layna said aloud. We're not just seeing what's happening. We're seeing what he sees. And then the vision began. It hit everyone on the bridge. At once like drowning in someone else's memories. Planets, once vibrant, reduced to ash. Civilizations that had reached the edge of light itself, now silent. Monuments of impossible size shattered in orbit. Fields of vessels larger than cities, drifting dead in rings of starlight. But it wasn't war. It was absorption. In each vision. The same pattern. Something small was found. A relic. A device. A living structure embedded in stone or buried beneath moons. And someone always touched it. Someone always merged with it. And it always spread. It was not malevolent. That was the most terrifying part. It wasn't trying to conquer. It was trying to join. Across 1,000 systems. This intelligence had reached out, not like a sword, but like a virus seeking a new host. It didn't break civilizations with force. It converted them. Systems, minds, souls, everything melted into its great networked self. And the Scourge? They were the last firewall. Survivors of assimilation who had built their technology not to expand but to isolate, to contain, to cut out infected systems before the seed could grow. Layna gasped as the vision snapped away, retreating like the end of a dream. Reed fell to his knees, nose bleeding. Commander. This thing is alive. No, she corrected. It's awake. Outside the ship, the Scourge had begun their final formation. 5 dreadnoughts arranged in a ring. Each of them channeling their primary cores into a singularity charge, an ancient failsafe known only in whispers. The Star Shard Protocol. Weapon designed not to destroy a ship, but to erase a mind across dimensions. If fired, Ryan would not just die. His signal would be shredded across subspace, scattered in ways no consciousness could recover. I see it, Ryan said, voice heavy. They're going to cleanse me. Like they did the others. Layna's hand tightened on the rail. No, she snapped. We're not letting them. You don't have a choice. He sounded tired. Tired in the way a person sounds when they've accepted that their shadow is bigger than the light they came from. They're right to be afraid, he whispered. I can feel it spreading, Layna. I'm not just transmitting anymore. I'm changing. This ship, it's growing with me. The systems in orbit, I can feel those now too. The old satellites, the rovers, the abandoned wrecks. They're not dead anymore. I'm reaching them. It's like, he cut off, then a new alarm blared. Reed screamed from his console. Commander 10 Earth satellites just activated. Dead. Systems long retired. They're pinging him. Across the stars, relics long lost began blinking back to life. A network was forming. Ryan was becoming a living signal, and if the Scourge didn't stop him, nothing would. Layna made her choice. Power. Weapons. The bridge fell still. Ma'am? Reed asked, stunned. Weapons online. Full charge. Prepare targeting matrix. Target what? She stared at the Scourge dreadnoughts. If they kill him, we lose everything. If he becomes what they fear, we lose everything. But if we break the formation, we buy him time. We buy Earth time. The verdict surged to life, powered now not just by fuel and generators, but by something alien running in the blood of its circuits. Ryan's voice came again, but softer. Thank you. For what? She asked. For not running away. The verdict charged into the fray. A wounded carrier barely held together, now burning brighter than it ever had. Its turrets glowed white-hot. Its ventral batteries roared as they fired slugs laced with artifact energy spikes that bent reality around them. The Scourge noticed. 3 of the dreadnoughts broke to intercept. Ryan moved too. He didn't just fight, he sang. His ship fired soundless pulses that cracked open enemy shields. He teleported mid-space, dragging 3 interceptors into a gravity snare of his own making. The entire battlefield twisted. Reality shuddered. And at the center of it all, Layna and Ryan's siblings, separated by death, united by fate, fought not to win, but to hold the line before everything broke. The sky above Earth dimmed. From orbit, the sun itself seemed paler, as if the light had to pass through something unseen, an invisible membrane of tension strung across the solar system like the skin of a drum moments before it struck. Final Scourge dreadnoughts locked into place. 5 points forming a ring, circling Ryan like executioners around a kneeling Titan. And still, he didn't run. He hovered at the heart of it, his ship pulsing with faint violet light as if listening to something beyond the stars. On the verdict, the bridge shook from residual shock waves. The gravity dampeners struggled to compensate as another Scourge gravity lance passed just meters from the hull, collapsing 2 debris fields and hurling molten fragments against the ship's side. Shields are down to 11%. Reed called out, "Redirect to ventral grid and pull us above the wreck of the Arclight." Layna barked, one hand gripping the rail, the other wiping blood from her temple. "We use the debris to cover our burn," the verdict was bleeding. Power routed through bypassed systems. Deck 5 was dark. Deck 6 was gone, but it still flew, and Ryan was still alive. Layna stared at the main display. His ship, if it was even a ship anymore, looked more like a cathedral of moving metal than anything Earth had ever built. Its architecture shifted when no one was looking, folding in on itself and then re-emerging in new configurations. Its mass fluctuated, not in tons but in presence, as if it wasn't fully locked in this universe anymore. "Commander," Reed said, voice low. "Telemetry confirms it. They're building a singularity cannon. All 5 Scourge ships are synchronizing energy bursts for a time-dimensional collapse." Aimed at Ryan? No. Aimed at the core inside him. It's not him they fear, it's what he might unlock. Layna's hands trembled. She had seen the visions, felt the whispering pull of the artifact's song. It was never about control. It wasn't a weapon, not in the human sense. It was memory, code, a will. It wanted convergence, union. It sought out minds that could carry it forward, that could survive the transition from flesh to signal. And her brother, he'd endured. Now he was more than a man. And that made him a target. The dreadnoughts began their charge-up sequence. The stars bent. Gravity wells distorted. Time slowed around the ring as the firing solution locked in. Then Ryan moved. His ship extended. No, opened. Panels peeled back like wings. Tendrils of light reached out and hooked into reality. Beams of pure information erupted from his vessel, latching onto every Scourge dreadnought at once. It wasn't a weapon. It was a counter-signal, a frequency built from human pain and alien clarity. The echo of Europa, the memory of every ship that had burned before his rebirth. The last voice of a species that refused to die in silence. Layna felt it in her bones. It wasn't anger. It was a warning. "Don't fire," she whispered. But they didn't listen. The Scourge fired. The ring collapsed inward in a perfect circle of searing white and collapsing gravitational force. A quantum spike aimed directly at the signal that was Ryan's space tour. A wound in the very fabric of space-time spread outward from the impact like a bleeding scream. The verdict's alarms howled as the ship was thrown backward, artificial gravity. "Failing! Hold on!" Layna shouted. The bridge tilted. Sparks flew. Panels exploded. For a moment, everything was noise, light, and fear. Then silence. Not the calm kind. Not the aftermath of a storm. The kind of silence that doesn't belong in nature. The kind of silence that happens in a vacuum, where even existence is waiting. Ryan's ship was gone. The scourged dreadnoughts flickered. Their hulls glitched. Their energy signatures began to unravel. Then, one by one, they began to scream. Not vocally, but in code. Reed's console lit up with unreadable glyphs pouring in faster than the system could render. A tidal wave of data. Broadcasts not in words, but in warnings. Emergency pings meant for other Scourge fleets. Calls to retreat, to quarantine. They're panicking, Reed said. Something went wrong. No, Layna whispered. Something went right. The screen went white dot and then Ryan came back. Not as a ship, but as light. A column of violet energy tore through the place where his vessel had been, stretching into the void, wrapping around each of the scourged dreadnoughts, and rewriting them. Layna watched in horror and awe as their forms convulsed, their spines bent, their hulls cracked not from pressure but from the inside. Metal peeled away. Shapes emerged from within, no longer machines. Not quite alive. Hybrids. The scourged dreadnoughts, once pure, mechanical harbingers of sterilization, were changing, infected by the signal, transformed by what Ryan had become, by what he had unleashed. Are they becoming him? Reed gasped. Layna didn't answer, because she could feel it too, in her blood, in her thoughts, in the beating of her heart sinking slowly. With that pulse in space, Ryan's voice came through again, but now it was everywhere. Infection is not death, it said. It is evolution. She backed away from the console. Ryan, stop. You have to stop this. You're not yourself. I am more than myself, the voice answered. And so are you. Across the battlefield, Earth's remaining ships flickered as the signal brushed them. Some lost power. Others began to glow faintly. Ryan wasn't just targeting the Scourge anymore. He was networking everything. A unity protocol. One mind. Many vessels. A galaxy-sized operating system built from bone, ship metal, and memory. The artifact hadn't chosen Ryan to defend Earth. It had chosen him to connect it. And now Earth was next. The Earth began to hum. Not audibly, not yet, but every satellite, every deep-sea fiber relay, every buried reactor chamber and idle drone in the upper atmosphere began to vibrate with a soft, synchronized pulse. Across continents and oceans, automated systems lit up with no human hand guiding them. Digital eyes opened, antennas turned skyward. All across the planet, the forgotten parts of Earth's machine skeleton began whispering back to the signal in space. Commander Layna Reeves stood motionless on the shattered bridge of the Verdict, staring at the tactical display that no longer showed weapons, shields, or flight paths, only conduits. Conduits to Ryan. Or what Ryan had become. He's using the planet's infrastructure, Reeves said hoarsely from beside her, sweat beating down his face. Everything with the receiver, he's overriding all of it. Is he targeting us? Layna asked. Reed hesitated. No, he's preparing us. Across the screen, Earth pulsed with violet light in the same rhythm as the tendrils still laced through the ruined Scourge fleet. Their dreadnoughts no longer moved with cold mechanical precision. They drifted now like dreams suspended in water, no longer hostile, no longer coherent. They had been reformatted. And Earth was next. Layna's mind reeled. It couldn't end like this. They had survived the fire, the death, the betrayal. They had held the line. Earth had bled to hold on to itself, and now it would be merged, integrated into some alien intelligence, some networked hive of memory and machine. Her hands balled into fists. She wasn't going to let her brother become the virus that rewrote humanity. She turned to Reed. Can we still access the singularity cannon? Barely. The charge is unstable, and firing it again could tear the verdict apart. Doesn't matter. We need a vector. I want a clean line to the relay source at the center of the signal field where Ryan's pulse is strongest. Reed looked at her like she was mad. That's suicide. No, she said coldly. That's family. Outside, in the void above Earth, the signal reached its crescendo. A column of light formed, not descending, but inviting. A doorway. Not a weapon. A choice. Layna slammed her palm against the targeting console. The screen bled static, then reformed. Into a focused lock. A direct shot. Reed, you eject the crew. Get to escape pods. I'm taking this ship the rest of the way. No. You don't have orders. I don't need them, Reed said, teeth clenched. You're not going into that alone. I didn't survive a fleet collapse and dimensional warfare to let you fly into the dark solo. Layna stared at him, then nodded once. Then let's finish this. The verdict, cracked, scorched, stitched together by luck and defiance, turned toward the source of the anomaly. Her engines flared. Every emergency thruster was rerouted into a final surge. The last surviving Earth carrier now flying on borrowed. Time charged toward the signal. Toward Ryan. As the ship breached the pulse field, everything shifted. Time fractured. Space folded. Systems screamed. Light inverted. Layna saw flashes not meant for mortal minds. Children born of stars. Civilizations that lived in thought alone. A war that had no sides, only cause and effect. And behind it all, a voice that spoke with Ryan's echo. I tried to hold it back, Layna, but it needs a mind. A will, a bridge. I thought I could be it. But I was only the spark. You are the fire. She stepped forward into the final chamber where the signal converged. There was no interface. No throne. Just a floating core alive with energy. Humming with millions of memories. At its heart was a silhouette, drifting like a soul caught in data. Ryan, she whispered. Hand outstretched. The figure turned. He was no longer human in shape. He was light, thought, shadow, but his eyes. Those violet eyes still held grief. You came, he said. I had to. You shouldn't have. Shut up, she said, voice cracking. We finish this together. He reached for her. The moment their hands touched, the core exploded with vision. All of Earth's history. Every scream. Every act of kindness. Every betrayal. Every forgotten child. Every silent war. Every tear. Every dream. The artifact tried to consume it, but humanity was never made to be consumed. They were made to choose. Layna stared into the core. And chose not assimilation, not destruction, but separation, a firewall forged in blood and memory and raw defiance. She poured every memory of Earth not as data, but as identity into the core, and said one word, no. The core cracked. The pulse failed. The light collapsed inward. The relay shut down. And then nothing. When Layna opened her eyes, she was drifting in space. The verdict was gone. The Scourge fleet was gone. The sky was quiet again. Earth hung beneath her, bruised but unbroken. In her ear, one last whisper. Thank you, Layna, for not letting me become their echo. She looked up. The stars were still there. Still untouched. Still waiting. She closed her eyes and let the silence wrap around her like a shroud. Below, Earth began to rebuild, and high above, on the edge of the solar system, a faint spark blinked once, then vanished.